High Court and in the Gauteng division has actually deemed the appointment of the City of Johannesburg City Manager Floyd Brink as unlawful. He was appointed earlier this year, about 9 months ago to be exact. Brink was appointed after a council meeting, and it's alleged that he got the job despite failing the vetting process. The High Court agreed, declaring the appointment as unlawful and unconstitutional. Now the DA is calling for council to be dissolved. I am joined by Mayoral advisor Mlimandlela Ndamase in Johannesburg. Thank you very much, Mlimandlela, for your time here on eNCA. Have you applied for leave to appeal, or are you still studying the judgment?
Good afternoon, Masifo, and to our viewers. Yes, the city has submitted an application for leave to appeal yesterday already. We are awaiting a date from the judge, which will direct as to when that particular notice for leave to appeal can be heard. And once that date has been provided, the city's lawyers will obviously attend to the court process that is required to unfold.
So many would say the council was warned before about the appointment of the city manager, Floyd Brink, and council did not adhere to that. Now there's back and forth court cases, and you're taking it on appeal. Who's paying for all of these lawyers?
Well, I think importantly, we must note that it's not something new in our jurisprudence or in the country that such decisions sometimes can be contested. Courts do make decisions, and hence there is a right to appeal because it allows you to go and test whether or not the lower court has made the correct decision in any particular matter. In this instance, it is the city's view that the processes were followed in line with what was required. And again, maybe let me just assist your viewers, Merciful, to understand what the judge has ruled on is the procedural aspects of the application by the DA. Yeah. So the other narratives that they have been perpetuating around that the city manager is not qualified, does not have the requisite experience and so on. Those are issues that they attempted to test in court. They did concede that, unfortunately for them, those issues were not true. And that the city manager does qualify. And let me also hasten to add that the report that went before council is actually of a process of recruitment, selection and interviews that was conducted by the DA administration and chaired by the former Mayor Palazzi. So the appointment of Floyd Brink is not a new process, but it was a continuation of a process started by the DA and which had been concluded up to the level of a memorandum to council for the appointment of Floyd Brink, who was the second a preferred candidate in that particular process. So what the judge has now said is that the agency that was presented on this particular matter for it to feature on the agenda of council did not comply with the rules of council. And this is something that the Speaker of Council is looking at, and part of the appeal will test whether the court did not given the arguments that were forwarded by the city and its legal team on the agency of the matter at the time.
Well, you know, Floyd Brink has been a city manager before, so I would agree when it comes to, you know, the debate around whether or not he qualified, etc. But I want to go back to the issue of who's funding all these court cases. I know that you say it's something normal, etc. But in a city like Johannesburg, where services have been so bad, etc., we've seen, for instance, the breakdown of coalitions. Is it not a problem that we are using money to take issues to court every time from the Palazzi days?
Well, ordinarily, Masifo, we would not want to be spending money of residents fighting court cases, which the city truly believes are court cases driven by political grandstanding. There are court cases that seek to achieve nefarious political ends. Well, it is, and that's why I'm saying we believe it is. And we must remember who has brought the case. It is the Democratic Alliance and not the administration that currently exists in the city. So we would rather use that money elsewhere.
But unfortunately, is it not a political response?
Unfortunately, people have rights. Mr. Brink has rights, the city has rights, and we must safeguard the interests of the city. Remember, we come from a history where the city did not have a city manager, did not have a chief financial officer, did not have a COO under the DA administration. Now, those are your three most senior administrators in any city. Now, for any city not to have those people in place and able to perform their duties and service the residents, it's a very mischievous and it's a very reckless way of governance. Now, this particular administration has sought to stabilize the administration, has sought to appoint the requisite people in the relevant jobs, and has sought to ensure that we insulate the administration from the political goings on. Because what we would want to see is that no matter who is the mayor or which party is in power in Johannesburg, but our potholes must continue to be fixed, our sewer lines must continue to run, we must continue to see litter collected on a weekly and daily basis throughout the city, and that's what we want to see. So what we are trying to defend is the right of the administration to be insulated, the right of those who hold positions in the city to be able to execute their responsibilities without fear or favor and without intimidation from political actors who seek to collapse the government of the city so that they may claim political cookie points in the process.
And in terms of, what you're saying, there's also questions around whether or not the appointment in the first place was political. Was it in the interest of the people of Johannesburg?
Well, I suppose you would have to ask the Democratic Alliance. They're the ones who advertised the position. They're the ones who did the interviews. They sought to interfere with them by having clandestine meetings with the person who would have been their first preferred candidate. And unfortunately, the report that they then had from a process that they ran was very clear that should the first candidate not be available to take up the responsibility, they recommend that number two in that particular process, which was Floyd Brink, could then be considered for appointment to the role of the position of city manager. And also remember, this Floyd Brink is the very same gentleman they had appointed as the COO of the city in 2016. So for them to now come and say he's unqualified, does not have the experience, yet they appointed him to the second most highest job in the city of Johannesburg, a very critical one in that it leads the daily operations of the city. And today they say that he was not qualified and is unsuitable. So this current administration actually, merely as a successor-in-law, took a report that the previous government had run and saw it to its logical conclusion. And therefore, we should allow Mr. Floyd Brink to continue and execute his responsibilities, as we have seen him doing when we had the Pre-Street explosion, as we saw with the Albert Street fire, the disaster that occurred in the city.
That need fixing.
Indeed, we have
that
many
money.
problems. No, we have many problems also that need the right skills and experience and capability, such as that possessed by Mr. Floyd Brink, to resolve the problems that the city has, including the money problems that the DA left us with.
Let me just squeeze in a last question. Judge Badlander, in his judgment yesterday, he said that whatever decision was taken by Floyd Brink during the time that he was city manager in the last 9 months does not become reversed, but the city does have 10 days to remove him. Is your application, for instance, an urgent one? Because if the 10 days lapses, at the end of the day, the city will have to adhere to what the court has said and probably appeal while also implementing what the judgment says you should do.
The law works a bit differently, Masefo. Once you lodge an application or a notice to appeal, it means that the orders of the judgment that was handed down yesterday are stayed until that particular notice can be heard and until the appeal can be concluded upon. So as it stands now, the issue of whether or not it's 10 days, whether an acting city manager must be appointed, etc., those orders are stayed until we can have the notice of leave to appeal considered and heard by the judge and a decision in that regard provided.
All right. The advisor to the Joburg mayorship is Mlimandlela Ndamase, speaking to us there about the decision by the High Court, the Gauteng division, that the appointment of Floyd Brink as city manager in the city of Johannesburg 9 months ago was unlawful.